Green flag is displayed then, and so night qualifying for the 2019 Race of Remembrance is underway here at the circuit Anglesey, Track Morn. Only 2 words of Welsh I know, and away they go. Quite a few cars already trying to get out then, and the grid potentially has already been set with the results from the qualifying session just now, and so these times are not interesting from the point of view of grid positions. So potentially we do have the Lotus Elise then of Rob Boston Racing on pole position, with the GPW Racing Caterham alongside it on the front row, and then for Optineck Racing, the Caterham team number 3 will be on row 2 with Stephen McCulley next to him on the second row of the grid. So 2 Heroes Trophies cars on the front of the grid, 2 relay cars on the front of the grid. And as I say, the times from this session will be recorded by TSL, tsl-timing.com if you want to go online and find the timing screens. And they will be recording the times and making sure that everybody goes out and does their 3 night laps. And therefore that will qualify them to drive in the night, because of course racing tomorrow will start at 3 o'clock and go all the way through until 9 o'clock at night, by which time it will be properly dark and raining and utterly horrible. But we'll enjoy it anyway, because it's the Race of Remembrance and that's what we do. So this is a 2-hour session. However, as far as the public address here at Anglesey is concerned, you won't be able to hear us after 6 o'clock, because the regulation for the circuit is, at least to my understanding, that the public address service is turned off at 6 o'clock. And so if you want to listen after that, then you have to find one of the streaming sites that's available. On the other hand, it's only night practice, so you're probably better off going off and have something to eat if I were you. Getting yourself ready for the Heroes Dinner. If you're on the circuit, then the Heroes Dinner is starting at 8 o'clock. And when I last spoke to James Cameron, there were tickets still available. Whether that is still the case, I don't know. But somebody from Mission Motorsport will know and will be able to tell you whether or not there are still tickets available for the Heroes Dinner. That is at 8 o'clock and will feature all kinds of fun things like raffles and speeches and announcements and guest appearances and all sorts. So if you haven't already got tickets for the Heroes Dinner, then if you don't have another arrangement, then I suggest you go along there in the huge tent, which promises very good catering as well. And it should be a great night out. As I say, that starts at 8 o'clock. This session, as I say, will go on until 7 o'clock this evening, by which time it's kind of not quite dark. If you're around the circuit, you'll know how dark it is. But if you're listening on the stream, then the sunset here, looking out across the Irish Sea towards Ireland to the west, absolutely glorious this evening. And it really is a lovely part of the world to come and visit. I strongly recommend it. So half a dozen cars already out. In fact, 16 cars are out, although only 7 of them now have set times. Fastest of them, Paul Vernon in the Optineck Racing Caterham, the car that has the red stripe over its pale blue livery for Optineck Racing. 88 going through there. That's the car that is going to be starting on the front row of the grid, courtesy of Paul Waters. But that car currently is in the hands of Gary Price, I do believe. Sorry, Jeff Price, I do believe. Yes, it is. Jeff Price going through, just starting his first flying lap. So he's done his installation lap out of the pit lane. Cars start this, even if they're in their pit garages, they're not allowed to start the session from the pit garages. They have to go round into the assembly area and then go down the length of the pit lane. Then they come out of the pits. And of course, they then only start their first flying lap once they're crossing the start-finish line and heading on their way. John Chevrolet goes fastest now in the 110 Piston Emotional team car, and he's down to a 1:43.480. The fastest time we had in the day qualifying session, 1:37.4 was the fastest time. So a 1:37.39. We're currently at a 1:43.48, so some 7 seconds or so slower than the times that were set during the daytime qualifying. I'm sure they are capable of going quicker, but lighting around Anglesey, as you can probably imagine, is, well, it's not quite non-existent. There aren't a few standard lamps around, but they are few and far between. And certainly once you leave the start-finish area, there is a little bit of a illumination at target, the first corner. Then they go up to the banking. There's no lighting there. There's then no lighting at all the way through the fast right-hander at Church, or the even faster right-handers that make up School. Then you get up to Rocket. It's completely dark up there. Cross the top of the hill, across to Peel, down the hill to Screw, nothing in the way of any lighting there. Then you get onto the Tom Price Straight. There is some lighting on there, and then you get up to the hairpin where there's some more lights, and then a little bit of lighting as you come down into the final turn onto the start-finish straight again. But apart from that, it is pretty pitch black throughout. So the drivers will be learning a new set of lines and learning what they can see. Marshals have been out, and thanks to all our marshals as always, but they were out during the lunch interval today, putting out cat's eyes onto the track edges. So drivers, theoretically at least, will have no excuse for not keeping to the track limits, because those are marked by these cat's eyes, which their headlights will pick out. However, as I say, that's pretty much all you've got. And when you're traveling at speeds of 100, 120 miles an hour, then you're concentrating more on where the turning in points are rather than on where the track limits might go. So 10 minutes gone then in this 2-hour session, and already time's beginning to get quicker and quicker. Steve McCulley is now the quickest in the number 17 Caterham, and that's the Heroes class car. So Steve McCulley with a 1:39 now, going quicker. He was in the 1:40s before, but by the time I finished the sentence, Steve McCulley at 1:39.671, over a second quicker than Jeff Price in the GPW Racing Caterham. So Caterham's 1, 2, and in fact 3, with Piston Emotional's John Chevrolet is third fastest in car number 110, and then fourth fastest is the fastest of the Mazdas. That's the Mazda MX-5, Rob Austin. Not sure that he went out in the session earlier today, but he's out in the dark, and Rob Austin going very rapidly indeed. So he is actually fourth quickest in the little Mazda, fastest of the 2-litre class cars, and he's done a 1:43.605. So Rob, who was plagued with bad luck at this event last year, car was an early retirement, and he'll be hoping for better things this year, but certainly very rapid indeed at the wheel of that Mazda. 143. An improvement from John Chiverell that last time around. 142.247 for him, leaves him third. No further improvement there. Who else has improved? Dickie Meaden is out in the Mission Motorsport Mazda, number 51. Dickie Meaden, then this is Mission Motorsport Team 2. Mission Motorsport here with a variety of cars. Mission Motorsport 1 is the Toyota GT86. Mission Motorsport 2 is the Mazda MX-5. Mission Motorsport 3 is the CRV, the Honda. So they've got a Toyota, a Mazda, and a Honda. And then Mission Motorsport 4, they go to France for, because that's the Citroën, which Mission Motorsport is entering under their banner. Improvement for Rob Austin as well. I told you about the improvement from John Chiverell. Well, Rob Austin's improved as well, 143.160 for him. But that's a second slower than any of the three cars ahead of him. But nevertheless, for a Mazda compared to the Caterham, that's a good performance indeed. In fact, it's more interesting to look perhaps behind Rob Austin. Paul Vernon has now gone out in the number 3 Optinex car. No, he's not. He's brought the car back into the garage, actually. So they're 5th. 6th fastest in this session is the Racy McRaceface team. And that is Ben Buckley who's driving. Mission Motorsport Team 1. This is car 101. This is the Toyota GT86. That's currently in the hands of Tom Ingram. So we've got Tom Ingram out there, Rob Austin out there, Dickie Meaden. Got some proper drivers doing their work. And fastest of them at the moment is Tom Ingram. Oh, no, sorry, it's Rob Austin with 143.160. Tom Ingram's done 147.601 in the Toyota. Dickie Meaden with the Mazda has done a 148.503. We were talking earlier on to James Cameron about the Operation Motorsport team. They've got one car out at the moment. That's number 22, the Operation Motorsport team car. And that car, a Mazda MX-5, being driven by Travis Hill and Mark Pombo. Mark Pombo at the wheel at the moment, just taking the car out for a single lap. Out for his first lap. Now comes the Synchro Motorsport Honda Civic. This is the one with the manual gearbox. And that's Lee Craddock going out in that car. Into the pits comes Steve McCulley with the Heroes Caterham, and he is still the quickest, 1:39.6, just over a second quicker than anybody else. And it's now Jeff Price. It is still Jeff Price second. Don Henshaw now takes the DSP Caterham out. So Stephen, having done his laps, Don Henshaw will do his. Paul Aram, the third driver in that car. And I suspect the order of the day will be to do, I won't say as little driving as you can, but no more than you have to. Certainly, once your drivers are qualified, then you'll be going out there. Number 69 going through there, the Lotus Elise Cup car. That's the pale green Able Care Admark entered car. Didn't strike me that the headlights were particularly bright on that car. It may be that they're quite bright enough for whoever is at the wheel of it at the moment. And that is Jim McInulty. Yeah, the car going along the back straight at the moment. And I mean, yeah, it does. It does have headlights on, but compared to some of the other cars, they aren't the brightest headlights in the world. But that's probably a reflection on how bright the other cars are, apart from anything else. So that's the number 69 car, Jason McInulty. And he is currently just outside the top 10 in 11th place. He's done a best lap of 1:48.723. Rob Austin brings the Mazda into the pits. Remarkable time that from Rob, 1:43.160, fourth fastest overall. I don't think anybody else will be getting close to that time in that car. Nothing against the other drivers, but Rob Austin really is a class above any of the other drivers who will be driving that car. So that's a good performance from him. Nick Trott has the GT86 up into seventh fastest spot. Car number 101, 1:47.601. Michael O'Reilly with the Optinec car. Paul Vernon was out earlier on. Well, Michael O'Reilly has gone quicker than Paul. He'll be pleased with that, 1:43.624. I was suggesting to Michael earlier on that Paul Vernon would probably be a quicker than the others, and he said no, when we've all got the same tyres on the car, there's not too much to choose between them. And so good performance there from Michael O'Reilly. And in the Optinec car, Optinec, a physiotherapy practice in Weybridge, so we'll give it its due. If you have problems with your neck, then go down to Weybridge, depending how far away from Weybridge you live, I suppose. So we've had 38 cars out so far, and out of an entry list which, judging by the number of cars that we had qualifying during the daytime, 44 cars, including the Honda CR-V, although I have some doubt whether we'll be seeing the Honda CR-V tonight. Although, interestingly, a bulletin has been issued which indicated that within the spirit of the regulations of the event, every effort will be made to allow that car to participate. But at the moment, no sign of it coming out. One lap has been completed by the number 420 Cockwombles BOF car, their extra car, which I see has its pit board just down below me, waiting for the car to come around in order to show it to the car. And this is the Citroen C1 from the Cockwombles team. Their pit board has the first four letters of their car's name, which is kind of helpful, but isn't terribly inviting for the driver, I wouldn't have thought. Anyway, that is the 38th car of the 43 that we would expect to see out here tonight. The Mazda MX-5 goes through. And we still wait for Cockwombles to come past. There he goes with the blue aerial and challenging up on the inside there of a Mazda MX-5 as he came through. So that was a fairly spirited overtaking move. Actually, what I will do is I'm going to try. Right, quick setup change here, and I can now work out a little easier what was going on. Yes, it was the number 7 race face Mazda that Cockwombles was challenging on as he went up the inside there, and a good effort from him there. A lot of cars making pit stops. I'm slightly concerned that we've only had 38 cars out because we've had half an hour of this 2-hour session now. And I hope the fact that, 5 cars at least haven't been out is a slight concern. But hopefully more of them will be putting in an appearance as the session progresses. It is a 2-hour session, and the requirement from the regulations is merely to complete 3 laps under nighttime conditions. Yeah, so 3 laps have to be completed in both the day and the nighttime qualifying sessions, according to the regulations. Although if there is, for some force majeure, you can't get out, then every effort will be made by the organisers to get as many cars into the race as possible, which is an entirely sensible way of approaching the spirit of the Race of Remembrance. I love the piece in the programme. All the entrants have been invited to take the Race of Remembrance oath before they participate in this race, which says that in the name who have served the country and made such personal sacrifice, I promise to commit myself to the Race of Remembrance, ensuring that the spirit of sportsmanship and respect is adhered to. I guarantee to uphold the spirit of fair play and honour the sense of fellowship upon which sport is founded. And what a good way to approach any motor racing event. I think sometimes it all gets a bit too competitive, although it's quite nice when that happens. Somebody's sliding sideways there. That's the Citroen C1 with the roof lights that change colour every second, which makes it terribly confusing for the team, because they say, look out for our car, it's the one with the red lights on the top, the blue lights on the top, the green lights on the top. But I suppose if they tell them it's going to be a different colour every time they look at the car, I suppose it works. But very often teams want to have cars that they can identify easily, and having lights that change doesn't necessarily help that. So more than half an hour gone, and GPW Racing, Lee Bristow, puts in the second fastest time of the session, 1 minute 40.407. So Paul Aram is now at the wheel of the Hero class Caterham. So the car that was qualified by Steve McMully has now got Paul Aram behind the wheel and has done a best of 139.671, 3/4 of a second faster than Lee Bristow in the GPW Racing Caterham. Then it's the Tim Child car, which isn't Tim Child anymore, just goes out of the pits now with Gary Smith behind the wheel. 141.332 is the best lap for that car. And then the Optinec Racing team is fourth with their Caterhams. Michael O'Reilly was out most recently. Paul Vernon has already been out. So my guess is that it's going to be Mark Roberts going out next for Optinec when they are ready so to do. They're currently fourth fastest in the session. Fifth is the Lotus Elise, the Cup car, which has gone very well indeed. In fact, faster than anybody else in its class. So the 69 Lotus Elise of Jason McInulty has done a 1 minute 43.008 to be fifth fastest in the session and fastest of Class E. And that means that it's faster than any other Lotuses as well. So hats off to them. Paul Rodison is next up in car number 5, due to the time of Rob Austin that was set earlier on in the session. We already told you about that time from Rob Austin, 143.160. But it's left the car second in Class E, third in Class E, and seventh overall is Max Coates in the Paul Sheard Racing Mazda. And then the other Mazda, 199 from Paul Sheard, has just done a 143.592, courtesy of Joe Marshall, except that he has now brought the car into the pits. So both of Paul Sheard's cars in the pits at the moment, the two Mazdas, and they are third and fourth in their class, seventh and eighth overall. Ninth overall is Racy McRaceface, cars number 7, with Alan Venters currently at the wheel. And that team has done a 143.741. Then Cockwomble's number 41 is next up with their Relay Caterham team. And then it's the hero car of the TWP racing team, the Mazda team of Nick Doyle, who's done a 145.915. Good performance from the 101 car, the Mission Motorsport Toyota GT86. Not sure who did that time, but Matt Stringer is currently in the car. This is the Toyota GT86, which was being driven earlier on. It'll be Tom Ingram, won't it, who set that time. So Tom Ingram relinquishing the reins of the Toyota to Matt Stringer. A 147 was the time that Tom Ingram did. Peter Mansfield's been out in the Rob Boston Racing Lotus Elise, the car that will be starting the race tomorrow from pole position, assuming that there aren't any reasons for him not to start from pole position. Anyway, that car certainly has done a time that qualifies it for pole position. Peter Mansfield then with number 19 this evening in the night practice has only done a 1:47.808, which is 10 seconds slower than he went in the daytime practice. There's red lights on, and so everybody will slow down and theoretically come into the pits. I think the car who was closest to the pit lane entrance just missed the pit lane entrance and is now trying to find a gap in the traffic to come in. The red lights being shown around the circuit, and what we can't do is see any headlights anywhere that are pointing in the wrong direction, but we get a great view from up here, but not necessarily can we see all of the circuit, but it's not too bad. Claire Smith is looking around as well and will tell us if her eagle eyes can see anything that mine can't.
Actually can't. Hold on, I'll see out back.
More carrots needed, Claire. Actually, a different view is probably required, if the truth be known. Anyone, in any case, everyone observing the red lights and bringing their cars into the pit lane. The session will not go on beyond 7 o'clock. And a reminder, if you are listening on the public address, then it will not go on beyond 6 o'clock. The public address will get turned off at 6 o'clock. So if you're listening on the public address and you want to carry on listening, you have to find some data if you're going to listen.
Yeah, so on YouTube and also on the Facebook page of Race of Remembrance, you'll still pick up the stream. You can see a lovely picture of the pits at the moment with the car with the flashing lights on top of it. But that's where you can pick up the stream for the final hour of the qualifying. That is where you'll still hear us. You won't hear us outside because obviously the neighbours.
There are no neighbours.
No, look, if you look, you can see Dublin.
The fishermen. No, it frightens the oysters, apparently.
Does it?
You'll believe anything. There are there are some great places to get oysters from. See John down there, public address engineer. He's warming himself up by standing as close as he possibly can to the lights. He'll come back in here with such a red face.
He's done very well this year for us.
He always does a great job. Thanks to John, who now gets the light. It's all very clever, you see. The lights go up and down and on telescopic arm, vertically extending telescopic arms. Fantastic stuff. Thank you, John.
Well done, John.
So, and notice how he chose the moment when the red light was on in order to do that. Now, a rescue unit has gone. Now, it's gone through Target. It's heading up towards the banking. Claire has still failed to tell me where this incident is. I think it is at the banking.
I think it's at turn 2.
The banking.
Yeah.
We don't have turn numbers at Anglesey.
I don't.
No.
Yeah,
I was complaining to one of the drivers earlier on.
There, we just called it turn 2.
No, it's the banking. Because people may not know kind of the configuration of the international circuit. I think there is a car that's gone through 180 degrees at the banking because there are some marshals up there who are being illuminated by a car's headlights. And from where the car is, they're kind of standing the wrong side of the car, as it were. So the fact that they've been illuminated by the headlights makes me think that the car's gone through 180 degrees. However, it's restarted, and as the rescue unit gets on the scene, it's a bit like, we've ever called the AA, Claire, and suddenly your car restarted just as the AA man got there. And you thought, oh, thanks very much, and off you go. It happened to me once.
We prefer it. I mean, to take it from someone from race control, we prefer it when that happens.
Yeah, quite.
It's really quick.
Yes. So
hopefully we won't be too long before they'll...
The rescue unit will turn off through the service road. I suspect the car concerned will continue on around. What we haven't done is tell you who it was. It was one of the Citroens that went off, and it was number 417, the FDL packaging car. Is that not, he said, car that went off earlier on? No, it wasn't, was it? I don't think it was. Anyway, it's 417 that went off. Dave Scotting was at the wheel of it when it had its incident, and it doesn't seem to have done any damage. It just seemed to spin through 180 degrees at the banking and has managed to come in, and they've sensibly brought the car in through the service road on the short circuit, and he will go back into the assembly area, check the car over, and then we'll be able to get the session underway again. In fact, the green light's already being shown at the end of the pit lane, and we can resume then with an hour and 18 minutes of this session still to go. Lee Bristow was able to go more quickly just before the red flag was shown, not under red flag conditions, and certainly not by putting anything in danger, because where the car had gone off was right at the beginning of the lap, so he was quite able to improve his time before the red flag was shown. But Lee getting the gap down to just 0.3 of a second between himself and the DSP Racing Caterham. So it's still Caterham's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Lotus 5th, Mazda 6th, Mazda 7th, Caterham 8th, Mazda 9th, Caterham 10th, and another Caterham in 11th place. So Caterham still to the fore, but certainly not in absolute domination, and certainly not in overall control of things at the front. Of course, Caterham's traditionally regarded as being one of the quicker cars here at the Race of Remembrance. And running as relays, of course, they don't have to worry quite so much about reliability, although they hope that their cars are reliable. And generally, the cars driven by teams of drivers who each have their own car. So does mean, for example, if a car does have problems, then the others have to step up and do a bit more driving. I was talking to Michael O'Reilly earlier on, and last year, in the first 6 hours of the race, I think he did 4 of them. Because his teammates had problems, and so he just kept on driving, and so came into the pits, refueled his car, went on his way again, whilst the others were repairing their cars. And then later on Sunday, his co-drivers did their fair share of the driving, while Michael stayed in bed and had a long leisurely breakfast.
If you're an MSA steward listening to that, you shouldn't. I think it's, is it now? I think it's in the regs, we say 90 minutes is the max we allow, I think.
I'll have to read what it says. I didn't know there was a maximum driving times. We'll go through the regulations and find that one out.
I think it's 3 hours in 5. For Motorsport UK, it's 3 hours in 5. You can't do more than 3 hours in 5.
Right. Okay.
So
it probably was 3 hours out of 6 then.
Yeah.
Or it might have.
That's why we allow 2. I mean, 2 drivers can actually do this.
Yeah. So he'd have been able to do 4 hours in the first 6. Yeah. And there are indeed a couple of teams that are intending to do the race with just 2 drivers.
Yeah, I think Rob Boston has only got 2, hasn't he?
Yep. So. Yeah, the Rob Boston car, he has just himself and Peter Mansfield driving it.
Yeah.
The Hero Morgan, as I call it, the number 20 Morgan, which is doing the race on its own, as opposed to the relay team of Morgans, only has 2 drivers, Paul Vokes and Ian Payne. And the Operation Motorsport, the Canadian entry, has Travis Hill and Mark Pombo sharing it, just the 2 of them. And one of the Mazdas, the other one is the Jaffa Cake racing car. Mazda only has 2 drivers. So there's 4 or 5 cars intending to do the race just with 2 of them.
Well, Duncan and I did it 2 years ago, just us. The good thing about the race, because you've got the breakup on the second day, and because we only go into the night up until 9 o'clock, and then you've got the break. It allows you, the 2 drivers, to not break the motorsport rule. It allows you to literally do it, just 2 of you, if you're strong enough to do it.
Well, yes, absolutely. I think I like endurance races that you can do with just the 2 of you, and I think in a lot of ways it does make you the stronger for it. I remember a lovely quote that I read in. Where did it come from? It came out of Sterling Moss wrote a book about Le Mans in 1959, and one of the things he was complaining about in 1959 was driving standards. Can you believe it? Nothing changes, does it? He was saying the problem with Le Mans is you have all the drivers who aren't used to driving. And he said it would be far better if instead of running it as a 24-hour race, they would run it as a 2 12-hour race, as a double 12. Because, of course, he could remember the days when there was a Brooklands double 12. But he said, because then one driver could do it on his own as a 2 12-hour races. So you could do 12 hours, he said. That wasn't a problem. Doing a 24-hour race on your own, as far as he was concerned, wasn't possible. So he said to do it as a double 12, you could do the 12 hours, go to bed, get a good night's sleep, have a dinner, come back to the circuit the next day and do the other 12 hours.
Well, if you can. There was someone who did someone actually do the Le Mans 24-hour?
It has been done as a solo drive, and I haven't got that notebook with me, but it has been done, and the driver finished 8th, I think.
I'm trying to think who it was.
Pierre Levesque very, very nearly did it on his own. But so yes, there's various times when that has happened, but I haven't got the right computer to do Le Mans. That gets packed away for the summer, or packed away.
I mean,
because it's winter. Yes.
If you can do it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think these days when people are concerned about health and safety, it does make sense to have a rule. And you're absolutely right. There is a rule in the supplementary regulations which says that the maximum driving time is 3 hours in any 5-hour period. But that does mean, for example, that you could do the first 3 hours of the race and then have a 1-hour break, and then do the last 2 hours of the race. So you could quite easily do 5 hours of you could do 5 hours of the first 6, couldn't you? Because you could do 3 hours, then have a 1-hour break, and then do the last 2 hours.
I think it's any.
Yeah, because that would
I've got the blue book.
Yeah, no, that would be right.
I think that is.
But you wouldn't then exceed the 3 hours in any 5-hour period, because as the race, as you went into the second part, the first 5 hours would go. So that would work. Anyway, let's just talk about strategy for long enough. Rob Boston, you were talking about Rob Boston, and he's now featuring in the top 3. Peter Mansfield wasn't quite as quick as Rob, and that's interesting because Peter Mansfield was quick earlier on in the daytime session, but he wasn't so quick in the nighttime. Rob Boston is now 3rd fastest in this session, 141.118. That is still some 4 seconds slower than he went in daytime qualifying, but it does mean that behind the 2 Caterhams at the front, and we do now have Peter Walters at the wheel of the GPW car. We've got Rob Boston then 3rd fastest. Gary Smith with Caterham number 110, Piston Emotional, is 4th fastest. Mark Roberts has now taken over for the Optinek team. He is in 5th place, 5th fastest. And then 6th fastest is the Lotus from Jason McInulty. Not sure that anybody but Jason has driven that Lotus number 69. And it's been in the pits for a little while as well. So we might need to check whether all is well with the Able Care Lotus, number 69. That's 6th then in the pit lane. 7th is Paul Rodison in the pit lane. 8th is Paul Sheard Racing with their Mazda in the pit lane. And now I can have a look down at pit stops here, can't I, using that screen there. And so the car I was concerned about was the 69. And what I do know is that car has been in the pits for 20 minutes, if not longer, because that screen gives me all the cars that have come into the pits in the last 20 minutes. And no, maybe not 20 minutes. 48. Yeah, no, 12 minutes. So he's been in the pits for 12 minutes at least, has 69, but that's still longer than I would have expected unless all the drivers have driven. And the Able Care car should have Dan Holland and David McInulty also driving it, and I don't think either of them have been out yet, so possibly a problem down in the pits for that car. A big improvement there for Caterham number 41, who moves, is the Cockwombles car, moves up to 6th place in the times. And that's the Caterham being driven by Jason Gale at the moment. And so Jason's done a good job there, moving the car up to 6th. 1 minute 42.966 was his time that time around. As far as the Citroen C1s are concerned, looking forward to watching the battle in the race between them. Rab Sport Racing is the car that is on pole position for the Citroen class in the race, and they are fastest in this session as well. 2 minutes 2.352, just set by Josh Potter at the wheel of the number 432 car, ahead of the Team Cat DT car. Well, it was ahead of that car, but it's now ahead of David Drinkwater, because David Drinkwater, team slower, goes quicker. I've been dying to say that. 3:18, 2 minutes 2.515 then, just under 0.2 of a second slower than the pole position setting car. So David Drinkwater moves up to 2nd in number 318. And then next up is the number 467 car of Team Cat DT, and that is David Alstadter. David Alstadter has done a 2 minutes 3.102 to be just 0.6 of a second slower in the Team Cat DT car. With that car currently in the pits, Scott Lawrence is next up with the number 420 car. And Scott's done or at least that car, 420, is currently 4th in the Citroen class with a 2 minutes 3.899. But certainly the Citroens very, very closely matched indeed. I was lucky enough to be at the Citroen C1 24 Hours at Silverstone earlier this year, and that was a phenomenally interesting race. Change of lead on the very last lap, and lots of incident and action during the race itself, of course. Just a reminder, if you're listening on the PA, and I know a lot of people will be around the circuit, that will be switched off in 5 minutes' time, and we will continue to stream data. So if your phone has enough battery and is clever enough, then you can listen to us using the Mission Motorsport Race of Remembrance Facebook page. And otherwise, as I say, you'll be in the dark. One thing that we haven't been able to organise for this weekend is any radio transmitter. So if you are trying to twiddle the knobs on the car radio, then that's not worth doing. Put you in the picture on that one first of all. Phil Thomas goes through with the blue Morgan number 21. That's the one that's easy to spot. The other drivers in the Morgan team, the Aero Racing 1 team, will all be driving white Morgans of various shades. Phil Thomas has the easy to spot one, the blue one. There are 4 Morgans. Actually, there are 5 Morgans here. One is a Heroes car, which will be doing the whole race on its own. The other 4 are going to share the honours and share the driving duties. But they've got 5 drivers that are going to be sharing 4 cars. So I think the idea is that 3 of the cars will be driven by 1 driver each, and then the 4th car will be a shared job between 2 drivers. But as I say, the Phil Thomas car, this is 21 going round, is the blue one, which is easy to pick out, except when it's dark, and then they're all black. I think it's the one going along through school at the moment. and up the hill towards Rocket. One of the Optinet cars just coming into the pit lane there, and fascinating because as it came down the pit lane, I thought it was a motorbike. Kind of only has one central set of lights on it. It's Mark Robert, his car, which is the kind of pale-ish Miami blue, sort of bluey green kind of color car, and the lights, normal place where you would put Caterham lights if it was a road car, aren't there at all, and he just has the LEDs on the front, which are so close together. As I say, it just looked like a motorbike car. Anyway, Mark Roberts then takes the Optinet car back to the pit garage, and I think that's all three of the Optinet drivers safely through night qualifying, because Paul Vernon started, then Michael O'Reilly went out, Mark Roberts has now done his lap, so Optinet have done as much as they need to do. They're fifth fastest with their number 3 team cars. 1:41.874 is their best. Their qualifying position was 3rd, so they don't really need to worry too much about being only 5th in that session. And so I think they're probably fairly content with what they've done. Rob Boston is in the pits with the Lotus. That car is 3rd fastest, but both of his drivers, or both himself and his teammate Peter Mansfield have both done their laps. Pete Waters is out on the circuit at the moment in number 88. He's just gone through. He's 2nd fastest, and 88. I think pretty sure all of their 3 drivers have been out so far. So we're getting to the stage where once drivers are happy with the laps that they've done and they're happy with the way the lights are pointing, then I suspect they're probably going to call it a night. And talking of calling it a night, as it is now 6 o'clock, the public address system will be turned off. So good night from here, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow morning from 9 o'clock when we have free practice starting. And for those of you who are continuing to listen on the stream, just to let you know, we've now had 40 cars out. Still no sign of the Mission Motorsport Honda CR-V having put in any laps. However, we have had Scuderia Sundial, which is Mission Motorsport under another name. That is their Citroen C1, which is being driven by James Cameron, amongst others. And car number 319, Grant Hadfield, currently behind the wheel. Andy Stacey and Adam Marchant Wincott are the other drivers of that car.
He only just got his license through today, Adam.
Yeah, he did something daft with it, didn't he? He put it in the letterbox, but didn't take a photocopy of it before he sent it. So
Yeah.
when he then phoned Motorsport UK, almost said the wrong name there. When he then phoned Motorsport UK to find out what had happened to his license, they said, we haven't received your application. But he's managed to sort him, which means you can't drive, Claire.
It does, yes. Because
Oh, dear.
I was literally going to just clamber into a Mission Motorsport car, but right at the last minute he got it. And as much as I tried to hide the notification, I couldn't. So, but good luck to him. He's out in that.
Excellent. Yeah, so that car currently 40th out of the 40 entries. It's done 2 minutes 6.942 though, which is not too shabby of a time. What I haven't been able to do is to work out which cars from the others haven't actually been out in this session, which is not necessarily going to be a work of a moment because it's we'll have to kind of work out which ones from the, as I say, we've got 44 cars on the entry list and 40 of them have been out in this nighttime qualifying. One of them we know about, the Honda CR-V, but as I say, there's 3 others which we haven't quite been able to work out. Yeah, so Claire Smith and I are just trying to work out. Certainly, one of the cars that it is not out is the number 72 TWP Lotus Elise, which is in the program as number 73, but is actually racing as number 72. That car was damaged in the paid practice session this morning. However, went out, they repaired it. In fact, I went into the garage whilst they were repairing it, and there was much hammering and such like going on. They repaired it, they got it out and did 50 laps in sorry, I'm exaggerating. They did 16 laps, so it wasn't that many. They did 16 laps, but they did qualify 10th on the grid. But they haven't been out in this nighttime qualifying session. And Claire, you don't think it's going to be coming out anyway?
I don't know. I hope it does. But speaking to John, he was a bit skeptical about it purely and simply because there was so much damage. It was involved in a nasty shunt earlier when it was out in practice, and literally they're working on it, and they must be working on it now. I think if it does start, it'd be good if it does start because obviously they've got the qualifying done. Remember, as we said, qualifying, this is not, although this is a qualifying session as such, the timing comes from the first one, so he can start.
Yeah, so I mean, it has a position on the 5th row of the grid, which is there for the taking. And it may well be that they are going to be able to persuade the clerk of the course that they don't have to do their night laps because they're all experienced enough drivers.
Yeah.
And it may well be that they're just working on it now to get the car ready in order for it to be able to race tomorrow.
But they were all here last year, so they should be able to.
James Cameron is up here,
James
and he can either add or change the subject.
I'm probably going to change the subject. What are we talking about?
The number 72 Lotus Elise that was damaged in the paid practice session this morning got itself onto the 10th fastest slot of the grid in 16 laps during this afternoon's qualifying session, but hasn't been out tonight. And you don't know, do you?
No, haven't got a clue.
Right. Okay.
However,
we will find out before tomorrow morning, and James will tell us something else.
What I do know is, because of course we've had a similar problem with the CRV.
Indeed.
So there's a car which hasn't qualified, didn't even do day qualifying. So so you've got a particular problem. So it did some of that, and we've also got novice drivers. So unlike John Earp, where he's got experienced crews in there, which is great. Now, the Bark folk downstairs would move mountains in order to allow it to happen. So what we've been able to do with the CRV is get folk out and qualifying. Some of these are newbies. Some of them have not got the same number of limbs as you or I. And they've gone out in a different car, but in order to make sure that they get night qualifying under their belt. And in the meantime, heaven has been moved and the earth underneath it in order to make the CRV run again.
I was going to ask you about that because did we ever get to the bottom of what the problem is with the car?
Yeah, turbo. So it had done the turbo and to drag the turbo off the front.
And presumably there is a Honda dealer near here that can provide another turbo.
Spare, so
just needs to be fitted.
Absolutely. So
and the best thing for you to do is not to help in that job, is it? Or
oh God, no! Don't let me anywhere near anything like that.
Right.
Heavens,
okay.
No.
I was just worried that we were keeping you away from the job to get it fixed.
No. It's the best possible place I can be. Is 3 stories away from them.
Perfect.
Which is fun.
Meanwhile, Claire has some news of
just that they're now doing the qualifying. That's what they're saying. They're doing it in 73 now. So it's really good that they've.
This is the Lotus.
The car will go out.
We're now talking about.
The guys are actually qualifying, which is what we want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As we saw, the Lotus guys going very well. So this is a TWP team. So hopefully they will be able to get that car fixed overnight, even if they don't get so much of an early night before racing starts. So that's one of the ones that we're missing, and now we can do our homework and find out which other ones we might be missing. I suspect that one of them might have been which way to go on the screen? That way. 76 and 77. No, 77 hasn't been. No, 76 and 77 are out, so that's not it. Back to the drawing board. Claire, what can you tell us?
I was going to say, while you're doing that, Lord and Master has now just run out of the commentary box. Just wants to remind people, those who are listening on the stream, which you now will have to, don't forget the Heroes Dinner tonight. Starts at 8 o'clock. Marvellous thing. So much going on. Lovely. Absolutely love. We were talking about Sterling Moss earlier. There's something there related to Sterling Moss that is really special, which is going to be in the raffle. But get yourselves there. If you haven't got a ticket, you can still get them over there now. And also, just to remind you all, be a bit. I hate to do this, but Jim's just mentioned it again. Be a bit careful. Once we finish this session, make sure you keep your stuff secure because. And I hate to say it, but we have had instances of people going through the garage, and Jim just wanted us to, be careful out there, peeps. Not that we think that anyone would, but we have had it before, and Jim wants you just to make sure that you're secure. And I've given Paul enough time that he's now going to tell us.
No, you haven't given me enough time. I can tell you that they're in Class E, whoever it is that's missing. And so that kind of narrows it down a little bit. 99, I reckon we're missing. So 99 is Paul Sheard Racing. No, 99 is...
Is it?
No, 99 is somebody else. 99 is Ricky Coomber's. Yes, it is.
I was going to say it's RKC.
Yeah, so Ricky Coomber is another car that was out in daytime qualifying. This is the 99 as opposed to the 999. There are no number 9s available from downstairs because Ricky Coomber has bought them all.
No, I think Ricky Coomer bought a job lot of 9s, and that's
Yeah,
why both
absolutely.
these cars are.
So, but rather than having 9 and 99, he's decided to go for, or 9 and 6, as most people would go for. Yeah, so the 999 car and the 99 car are not out, are they? So I think we are missing both of Ricky Coomber's cars.
And they haven't been out at all in night qualifying.
Yes, I think that's right. Double check. Yes, definitely Ricky Coomber. So what we need is for your friend Sheila to go down and find out what's going on in Ricky. I bet he's gone to the bar already. If Ricky's listening, he will kill me for that. No, so Ricky Coomber's 2 cars qualified quite well. The one car was 24th in qualifying, and the other was 28th. So they were in not quite the top half of the grid, but close to the midfield. And as I say, so Ricky then looks like he's having dinner rather than going qualifying.
So long as he's actually let the clerk of the course know. I mean, we don't know, and I'll have to speak to Colin later. But Colin needs to know. I mean, if Ricky's been here less than a year, then he obviously can do that. But if not,
Drew Furlong has been very helpful in bringing me bulletins that I've already got. Thank you, sir. Yes. Okay, so car 400 will be a different car tomorrow than the one it is now.
But it will carry the 400.
Perfect, and it's on that bulletin here.
Do we know the number that it's going to be? Oh, it's going to be 500. So the 400 becomes a 500. But it's not a Fiat 500.
Right, and we now have permission to qualify in different vehicles being granted by the clerk of the course, and so that's all right. And car 400 has been given permission to qualify in car 400, then substitute car 400 for car 500 for the start of the race. So I just wonder whether the damage that was done. I mean, I spoke to both drivers. There was an incident, just to recap, there was an incident in the paid practice session this morning in which the Citroen C1 car number 400, the entry from TCS Motorsport, and the number 72 Lotus from TWP Racing, they're in adjacent garages up at the top end of the pit lane. They came together coming through School, which is the very, very fast right-handers. If you look at the circuit map, there's 2 corners that take you basically along the beach, well, not quite, but along the seafront. And if you've ever spectated at Anglesey, and I doubt whether anybody who's listening has, it's possible, but you can actually get down to the sea down there. Anyway, it's on that bit of circuit, very fast, and you're on the left-hand side of the track because you're going through right-handers. But you really want to be over on the right-hand side of the track because you're going uphill and then you're getting to rocket where you want to turn left. And these 2 cars came together and then speared off the grass. Neither of them hit the barrier, but they did come to rest in the grass and got bogged down in the mud. But they did quite a lot of damage to each other. Most of the damage to the Citroen was done to the wheel. And from talking to the drivers, my impression was that it was suspension damage, steering damage that could be repaired. Most of the damage to the Lotus was done to the side of the car. And there was possibly some damage to the wiring loom as well, which may be why they've taken the time out to fix the car. Might have even taken the lights, I suppose. But anyway, so both of those cars, although they qualified during day practice and were repairable for that, they may have been short-term fixes, but not ones that would fix the car for the 12 hours, which is in effect, although we've got 3 chunks of the race of Remembrance, you do need to have a racing car that's going to be able to go racing for 12 hours in effect. So that means that they probably want to just do the fix properly. And as I say, as we've now found out, in the case of the TCS Citroen, that means substituting another car for them.
Yeah.
Right, so I think that's just about dealt with everybody that we knew about then. So 102 isn't there, 72 isn't there, but the drivers will be, and they'll be out tomorrow. And then 99 and 999 are not there either, but they will be able to participate in the race tomorrow, it would seem. Right now, so I'm delighted to tell our 10 listeners on the stream that Diana Binks has joined us. Diana will be with us all day tomorrow and all day Sunday. And she has just gone down into the pit lane to find out what might be going on with Ricky Coomber and co. And I have one of those funny feelings that Murphy is alive and well and living in Anglesey, because yes, he's just sent one of the cars out. So the 99 car has just gone out, and poor old Diana is going to get down there and say, "What's going on with your cars?" And he said, "Oh, we just sent it out," and she's going to say, "Nothing has happened. It's all right." So I can see her down there now. No, she's not. She's still doing her research. So partly this is a test of our technology, and partly it will also enable us to find out what's going on with Ricky Coomber and his team. It's always nice to have Ricky Coomber here, a great character and a lovely guy. And what we've enjoy having him with two cars, which is very good here at the Race of Remembrance. He enjoys the event enormously. I think it's a very special one for him as well as for a lot of other people. But as I say, the thing that we have managed to achieve is that one of his two cars has just left the pit lane, and so we'll be able to participate in this session after all. So Diana is down there, and she's now going to come down towards us in order to tell us what's going on, and then our pre-arranged signal will hopefully be able to hear Diana over the stream that we've got running here. Meanwhile, just to tell you that at the top of the times, Gary Price has now gone quicker than anybody else. So for a long time, the DSP car, Caterham, was quickest, but we've now got the Relay 88 Caterham. And it was Gary Price who set the time, 1 minute 39.338, which is exactly a third of a second quicker than the DSP Caterham has gone. That's second quickest. Rob Boston Racing is third, and in fourth place is the Piston Emotional car, which is Gary Smith at the wheel. All four of those cars, the 17 Caterham, the 19 Lotus, the 110, and the 3 Caterham, all in the pit lane at the moment. And the car that is out there, as I say, is Gary Price, who has just gone quickest of all in the session, although his last lap was some 5 seconds slower. And Diana is now ready to tell us this.
Hello, Paul. I'm not sure. I think you can hear me. Yes, I can see the flashing torch. That means you can see me. Right, just popped in, and the Ricky Coomber car, the 99, that had brake issues and handling issues. So they brought the car in earlier today, as you rightly said, to work on the car. It's taken quite a long time, but as I got down to the garage here, it just gone back out onto track. So they're happy. They put a few installation laps in on that, and it seems to be running fine at the moment. The 999 has got some issues, so that's gone back into the garage. They think it's the timing belt, so they're all working on that frantically at the moment, but they're going to put all the drivers out on track in the 99 so they can get their night laps in tonight.
Let me try that again. So yeah, that was finger trouble on my part. Sorry. Thank you then, Diana. So as I say, the good news is we'll be hearing more from Diana tomorrow. She will be down there in the pit lane. Unfortunately, she hasn't looked at the weather forecast, but I've no doubt she'll have her bobble hat with her, and it'll be a soggy bobble, I'm afraid. But she does very well. She works very hard, and she does bring us all the stories. And the great thing is, of course, having the roving mic, having the pit lane commentator, it does enable us to find out what's going on, because although we get a great view up here in the booth, Claire, we can't find out what's going on in the pits without somebody to tell us.
No, not really. Although we spoke earlier about me trying to get a drive, and Adam's race license turning up quite late. I won't say the exact words, but he said, steady on, you're just jealous. Bless him. He sent me a text. But yeah, so as you say, we can't see, but we can, thankfully, with Diane now. So now that we've got Diana here, that's brilliant. And she'll be here tomorrow, as you say.
Indeed.
And also you can hear her on the stream as well. So we've kind of like got it covered, I think.
All it can do now is to go downhill, because everything has worked swimmingly so far. And as I say, we could not have hoped for anything more. Gary Smith is still the quickest. He hasn't gone any quicker than he had before. As I say, the next 4 cars in the times so far are all in the garages. 6th fastest is then the Solo 64 121, which Giuseppe Filet is driving at the moment. That's 6th fastest in tonight's session. 7th fastest is the number 27 car of Scuderia BOG. That car in the hands at the moment, number 27 at the hands in the moment of Paul Begley. And that car is 7th quickest. Paul, about a second away from his best. Giuseppe Filet has just gone faster than anybody else in the number 64 car. There are 3 64 cars, but Giuseppe Filet going more quickly. Screen suddenly telling me that everybody's gone quicker, but I don't think that's quite true. No, the best lap for Gary Price set 10 laps ago, so that's still 1:39.338. So into the pits comes Fillet. That's what's triggered it. Fillet, having improved his time, then brought the 64 car into the pits. So 64, then the team of Solo 64 121. The team that is Ryan Hooker sharing with Will Rossetti and Giuseppe Fillet. And he is seventh fastest now in the pits. 199, Paul Sheard Racing is in the pits. 41 is still out there. That's the Cockwombles Relay Caterham car. They're out. Jason McInulty is back out in the Able Care Lotus. But we still haven't seen anyone but Jason at the wheel of car number 69. So unless there's something wrong with the transponder, neither Dan Holland nor David McInulty have been out. So still cars circulating, but fewer and fewer of them now. How is Ricky Coomber's team car going? Well, it's back in the pits. Ricky went out and did a lap. So you didn't talk to Ricky then, did you?
No, I didn't, but they are going to cycle through the drivers from the 999 as well. So the car is in the pit lane now. I think Ricky just jumped out. Another driver, I didn't see who it was, has just jumped in. So they're just trying to get them some night laps.
Good. Okay, so it wasn't actually Ricky that you spoke to then. That's the thing. So you spoke to someone else, right? Okay. So well done for getting the information from whoever it was. So Ricky went out and did his laps, and went fast enough. A 1:58.965 puts the car 31st, which is probably a little bit further down than you would like it to be. But with half an hour of this session still to go, they've got quite a busy time of it, because not only do they have to get the 3 drivers from the 99 car cycle through, but they then have to get the 3 drivers from the 999 car cycle through. So 3 laps each from 6 drivers. Well, they've done 1, so it's 5 drivers in 30 minutes. Yeah, it's probably going to be tight, that, but they'll work their way through it, I'm sure. The car, as I say, already through. Most of the Citroen C1s have done their laps. The only one that's out still is the Mission Motorsport Citroen. Well, there was a short interval there. Apologies for that. We need to talk to each other. Well, what I really wanted to tell you, you know how it is. You're dying to tell somebody. Lee Bristow is doing a great job in the in his 88 car. The 88 car being the red version. Sorry, orange. Yeah. Price is in red, isn't he? Yeah, so it's the orange car. Trying to work it out because it's dark. Lee Bristow doing great stuff, and hats off to him because he's a second and a half quicker than anybody else. 138.097 for Lee Bristow then. So it's not the car that is on pole position, but it is a car that will be starting at the front of the grid. Has gone fastest in this session to the tune, as I say, of 1.5 seconds quicker than anybody else. 138.097, and his last 3 or 4 laps. Actually, that last one was slightly slower. It's 138.5, but Lee certainly reveling in these nighttime conditions as it gets cooler. The car obviously working well, and he's not getting any traffic at all because there's very few cars out there. Anyway, Lee Bristow has been able to improve. Somebody else who has been able to improve as well, the number 41 Caterham, the Cotwombles car of Tristan Judge, who Tristan has done a 140.649 now, and that was not set on his last lap, but on the one before his last lap. So again, a driver who's able to find some space and go quite rapidly. Will Rossetti is still out in the Solo 64 car, Caterham, number 64. He is not so quick. And who else is still out? Number 18, Paul Sheard Racing. He's still circulating. This is the Mazda of who's out in that at the moment. Paul Sheard Racing is currently in the hands of Guy Colclough, and Guy in number 18 has done a 143.391. So that's not too shabby. The 102, the Honda CR-V, is still going round. And that's now Daniel Langefeld. Dan, having been out in the Citroen when presumably he thought that he wasn't going to get a go in the Honda. So he's now gone out in the Citroen. So Darren Langefeld then in car number 102. Being shown actually against 2 cars at the moment because he was the last driver in the 103 car as well. That's the Mission Motorsport Citroen C1. Well, he's now out in the Honda CR-V, getting used to that. So he's getting double money for his money, double time for his money. The R&R MMSA BMW still going round as well, although not going as quickly as it was earlier on. Ricky Coomber, meanwhile, is going through in these last, well, we're just under 15 minutes of the session still to go. And Ricky Coomber has put into his car now Harry Ormerod, isn't it? Sorry. Harry Ormerod has gone out in the number 99 car, but he still has, I'm just trying to think who else still has to drive that car. I'm not sure whether Zach Lucas has been out yet. Zach probably more used to driving Ford Fiestas than Honda Civics. But they are the drivers of the 999 car, which we are told from Diana, who found out, was having more serious issues. They thought there might be with the timing belt, which is going to take a bit of time to sort out. Had that on my car once and it took them a week. So we'll hopefully they'll be able to get that car out fairly shortly. Darren Langefeld is doing great things with the Honda, moves it up the list there, ahead of all of the Citroen C1s. So Darren Langefeld, the diesel car that had turbo problems earlier on, those are now sorted, and the Honda CR-V going as fast as it's gone all day. In fact, going faster than it's gone all day. The next target for Darren, if he doesn't bring it into the pits, is to get underneath 2 minutes. He's done a 2 minutes 0.775 best lap, and that was on his last lap. So look out for the 102 and see if that can get underneath the 2 minute mark. Who else to talk about? Number 11, we should probably mention. This is the Peaky Blinders Racing Mazda MX-5, which Oliver Sieg has just made the fastest lap in that car, the fastest lap for that car, I stress, 152.728 on its last lap. He's done 35 laps in this session, not as many as some. The most has been actually completed by the team of Caterham racers driving for the GPW racing team. Lee Bristow finally brings 88 into the pits with just over 10 minutes of the session remaining. But he went still faster. I didn't actually mention that he went faster again. So he actually got down into the 37s in the end, 37.963. And not to be outdone, Pete Waters is now out. So we've now got 88 in the shape of the black car of Peter Waters. 137.963 was the time which was done a moment ago by Lee Bristow. And we'll see whether Pete Waters is going to be able to improve on that. Tristan Judge has also gone quicker now because he is now second fastest. So Tristan Judge makes it a Caterham 1-2. Well, it was Caterham 1-2 anyway, but a relay Caterham 1-2 because we did have the hero car in there. So the Cockwomble car with Tristan Judge, 1 minute 39.603 means that Lee Bristow's advantage isn't quite as big as it was earlier on. Under 10 minutes of the session still to go. And how many cars? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 cars still circulating. Chris Threadgill is now out for Ricky Coomber Racing. So they're going to be using these last 10 minutes as best they can. Darren Langerfeld has got underneath 2 minutes, a 159.732 for the 102 Honda CR-V. So well done to him. Meanwhile, for the RAF, RNR MMSA, car number 16, now in the hands of Richard Scott. That car hasn't improved its time, but Richard still circulating then in the BMW. What is Pete Walters going to be capable of? He's on his first flying lap now. He's done his start-up lap out of the pits, and through goes the Ricky Coomber car in the hands of Chris Threadgill, waiting for Pete Waters to come through in the Caterham, really. I think that's the car to watch at the moment. The BMW goes past the pits, the R&R MMSA car. Richard Scott at the wheel. That is a 2-minute lap compared to the best for that car of 1 minute 59. So not far off its best. Improvement for Will Rossetti. I said earlier on that he was still out, but he was off the best of that car, or that team, I should say, because they each have different cars. But Will Rossetti then in the 64 Solo 64 121 team, that has now done a 141.822, which takes it up to 6th fastest, just ahead of the Optineck team, which have long since left the circuit, gone for dinner, I suspect. Unless they're getting ready for the Heroes dinner. They're just putting their best bib and tuckers on. An improvement from Tristan Judge again, a further improvement from him. So there's still people pushing on hard out there and getting faster and faster. 139.540 for Tristan Judge. Keeps him second fastest in the session, but Tristan still going well. David Langerfeld... Darren Langerfeld, keep calling David. Darren Langerfeld improves his time still further, down into the 1 minute 58 now, 58.719 last time around. for him. Chris Threadgill not improving on his lap through. Nor does Richard Scott. Screeching of tyres from somewhere. Can only imagine that was coming from Chris Threadgill in the Honda Civic going along the back straight or going past school. The 64 car goes through. Will Rossetti improves still further, 141.689. Still stays as quick as he was. 41 and 88 going through side by side, well, not quite side by side, but nose to tail. And that prevents either Tristan Judge or Pete Walters from improving in that time. I think they might have got in each other's way a little bit. Pete Walters has caught up now with Tristan Judge. And now is Pete going to go past Tristan? I think Pete is a little bit quicker than Tristan might be. They're turning through Church at the moment, and along the back straight they go. Still the 88 car following in the wheel tracks of Tristan Judge in 41. The 88 is currently the quicker of the two of them, but not in the hands of Pete Walters. It was Lee Bristow who set the time whilst he was driving his car, number 88. Up to Rocket and turn through the two corners up there and back down the hill through the corkscrew they go again. Claire Smith has come bounding up the stairs, beaming with energy. What are you going to tell us this time?
You want to know about the Lotus?
Don't get out of breath. Tell us about the Lotus. Let's be clear
Lotus,
about which Lotus we're talking about. This is the number 72.
So this is a 72. John, I've just been having a really nice conversation with him, bless him. That car's being worked on as we speak. They took it out in daytime qualifying, as you know. Obviously, it had had a lot of frontal damage and been swiped at the side. They nicked a door off someone and then, bless them, put it all on, took it out. But then what they found was it was overheating, brought it back in, realised they'd punctured a couple of hoses that run along the side of them to the coolers. They changed that, took it out, came back in, huge pile of smoke. It's done the head gasket. That's what they're doing now. So they're working on it now. It will start tomorrow. He's just assured me it will start.
Good.
Very out of breath.
Absolutely. Note to commentator, when you rush up the stairs, take 5 seconds to yourself to breathe, and then you'll be able to talk.
It's not that. So I've got a driver who hasn't qualified yet on night qualifying, and with 3 minutes to go is pushing it. But he's just arriving and he's got to do 3 laps, which Colin gladly has said that he will do. That's Ian Payne in car 20.
Right, okay. That's the Morgan, isn't it? Number 20. So the Aero racing car. They only have 2 drivers in that car. So I have to ask, what has Ian Payne been doing for the last hour and a half? Because the car only has 1 other driver. So what Ian Payne has been doing, I don't know. But anyway, so we'll look out for Ian Payne going out. This is the Morgan that is number 20, just Paul Vokes and Ian Payne due to drive it. And it currently is, actually, maybe there is a 3rd driver of it because it's being shown there as having been driven by Tony Hurst, who is down to drive the 21 car. So Tony Hurst has been out in the number 20 car. I wonder if Tony is actually thinking of doing double duty, driving 2 cars, which you are allowed to do in Race of Remembrance. But you still have to observe the drive time limitations. 2 minutes to go in the session. Still Pete Walters and Tristan Judge circulating nose to tail. Unfortunately, they are not going as quickly nose to tail as they would do if they were running as single entities, because there's not much to choose between them. Chris Threadhill is still out in Ricky Coomber's car, I think. No, he's not. He's coming to the pits. Thank you, Di. Yes, he has. So there will be, I think, just Mark Simmons to... Oh, no, is it Zach Lucas? I'm quite sure if Mark Simmons and Zach Lucas still down to drive, but they are certainly seem to be strapping another driver in. a black and white driver warning flag is given to Porsche Racing's car, number 18, which has also just come into the pits. So counting down the last few seconds, Tristan Judge has called it a day or a night and has come in. Pete Walters has stayed out and done a 1:38.989. Needs to find another second if he's going to better the time that Lee Bristow set earlier on. There might be some inter-team rivalry going on there, probably deciding who pays for dinner. Whether it's who's quickest who pays for dinner or who's slowest who pays for dinner, but no doubt is some inter-team rivalry going on there. Pete Walters, with the best will in the world, usually the quickest of them. Checkered flag goes out to what is probably now only a couple of cars still running. Just looking down, the R&R MMSA car is in, Cock Wombles is in. I think the Honda CR-V is still out there. And Will Rossetti is still out there in his Caterham. And of course, Pete Walters is still out there in his Caterham. Whoops, wrong way. The other car is, yes, Zach Lucas has gone out in Ricky Coomber's car. He just got out before the checkered flag came out. Darren Langerfeld has come in with 102, but that car has now done 16 laps. That's good performance from Darren. There goes Pete Walters across the line, and it was a slower lap. So all that excitement from Pete, and he has to pay for dinner now, presumably. In Lee Bristow gets away with it. A 1:39.174 was the last lap from Pete Walters, not as good as Lee Bristow's best, which was a 1:37.963. And the only remaining car to come across the line is going to be Ricky Coomber's Honda, which does cross the line now in the hands of Zach Lucas. And I think that is just about going to be it in terms of cars that are still circulating. Everybody else is either in the pits, having already completed their qualifying. No, the Richard Scott is still out in the BMW. So, yes, that's the car coming across the line now. The somewhat dimly headlit car. Those are a bit like my headlights, which are fine for driving around slowly like I do. But I think if I were racing, I'd want something a bit brighter. Anyway, Richard Scott then brings the BMW across the line as the final car to take the checkered flag. And that completes night qualifying here at Anglesey. So it remains just for me to thank Diana Binks for coming and for contributing straight away. I mean, no sooner had she got here than we had her working. So well done, Diana. Look forward to hearing from you tomorrow. Thanks to Claire Smith for all the work that she's done, getting the technology to work and also doing homework. Thanks to all the marshals for doing a great job as well. You've kept everything running very smoothly indeed, to the BARC and to Mission Motorsport, of course, for making it all possible. Look forward to seeing you all bright and early tomorrow morning. We've got free practice starting at 9 o'clock, and we will be covering that, although the Supercar Saturday, which follows, we will probably go quiet for, but then we will get things underway again in time and in good time for the Biathlon of Foolishness, which will involve running around semi-naked around Anglesey and then heading off into the Irish Sea for a little swim and then running back again or something like that. So we'll do that, and then we'll have the cars coming out onto the grid. Diana will be down there mingling with the great and the good of this race, and there are many of both of those. So we'll look forward to seeing that grid formation for a 3 o'clock start to the 2019 Race of Remembrance, which will get underway tomorrow. But for now, it remains for me to say enjoy the Heroes Dinner if you are going to that. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow morning. Good night.